Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to Water Cooler Talk. My name is Caleb Turner, and I'm a sports writer at KSL.com. It is Sunday, September 7th. We're coming at you live after the end of an exciting opening Sunday night football between the Bills and the Ravens. It was an electric one. I thought it was going to go to overtime, didn't. So luckily, it didn't make our night go too late into the evening because we are joined by a special guest tonight. A former guest of the show, but he has not been on in a while. We want to welcome Nate Schwartz back to Water Cooler Talk. How you doing, Nate?
Oh, I am doing so well, Caleb. And let me tell you, I I am so happy to be back here at the water cooler with you. It's just I have been parched for so long, and now I'm here. I'm here at the cooler getting the water that I need. So thank you so much for having me.
The proverbial water cooler, as it were. I do have there's a Dasani on my desk. We have that. I know people hate the way Dasani tastes, but it's what they give us at a lot of sporting events because it's a Coke. It's the Coke water. So
Yeah, Coke water. Can't beat it. No,
yeah.
it's a great shout out to one of our biggest and favorite sponsors, Dasani. Thank you for
Okay.
your undying.
Speaking of that, actually, though, since you start off on the water cooler note, I did look into just for my own sake, like I kind of want a water cooler in my apartment because it's just easier to get water out of like the big like 5 gallon things. So I looked into it, and like Culligan is obviously like the big one that everybody gets, and they have this thing where you can like make an appointment to like get your own cooler, and they have like a little box for like more information or like special requests. And I put in that box, I run a podcast called Water Cooler Talk. If you want to partner with me, please let me know. um, they have not responded to that request, so no water cooler sponsor just yet.
Not yet, but I'm not giving up hope. They will contact us. We will get our water cooler sponsorship. It will happen.
Yeah,
I'm manifesting, Caleb. I'm manifesting.
hopefully. I know there are other water cooler talk s kind of like there are podcasts with water cooler in it. None of them obviously hosted by KSL or about Utah sports, so we do have a bit of a corner on the market there. But nonetheless, there is some method to the madness. There is a reason that we brought Nate on today, not only to talk about his Niners win today over the rival Seahawks, which I'm sure you're very happy about on the opening weekend of NFL NFL football, I guess. You were at the BYU game last night. You got to see Bear Bachmeier in person. They played Stanford, which is somewhat of a hometown team of yours, being from the Bay Area. Do you actually have, I didn't ask you this, do you have any like familial connections to Stanford?
Yeah, only that every member of my family applied to go there and we all got rejected. No, I'm kidding. That's not true. That's not true. Yeah, it's actually you're teeing me up perfectly here because the reason why we went to this BYU game specifically is because my 90-year-old grandmother is in town and my father is also in town, and they have never been to a BYU game together because
Oh,
she is a diehard University of Utah fan and a
cool.
University of Utah alum, although all of her children went to BYU and graduated from BYU. So this was my dad's chance uh, to take his mother to a BYU game, and I guess that hadn't happened before. How it's connected to Stanford, you might ask. I'll tell you. So growing up in the South Bay area, my dad and his mom, my grandmother, went to a lot of Stanford games,
Mm.
Stanford football games growing up. Actually, like the way that my dad like made money as a youth was after the Stanford football games. He and his brothers would like go and like get all of like the beer cans and stuff and then trade them in for money.
Yes.
So while none of us are Stanford educated, we were geographically close to Stanford, so they have that connection. A bunch of my family members have like worked at Stanford and admin gigs. Like that's not the same,
That's pretty cool.
but
That's cool though.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've walked around campus a couple times. I ran into Andrew Luck once the week before he
Hey,
announced his retirement on
whoa,
campus.
I've never heard
So,
this story.
oh yeah, it's true. And I actually, I think it's
And
my fault
it's
that
it's important because they showed him on camera last night on the TV broadcast more than the BYU sideline like combined. So obviously he's a big part of that program.
well, see, there you go. Um, Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like the week before the football season started. I was eating lunch. He was there with his wife. I was that person that like approached him during his lunch and interrupted his lunch and just said like, "Hey, you know, I have a good feeling that you're going to win MVP this year," or like something dumb like
No, you
that.
did not say
Yes,
that.
I did. Yes, I did. And then like a week, he was like, "Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm feeling good." And then a week later, it was like Andrew Luck retires, and it was
Oh my god. How have I never heard this story before? That's so good.
yeah. So there you go. That's every single Stanford connection that I have.
Yeah, well, not only that, you were at the game last night. The Stanford Tree mascot was also in attendance. I saw making his way or her way around the stadium. I'm not quite sure. I also saw that Cosmo tried to solve a Rubik's cube while underwater. I don't know if you have any intel on that. I believe I saw that it was a failed attempt, but he didn't drown, so that's good.
That was also I will tell you that multiple people around me in attendance were concerned for Cosmo's well-being for several minutes because they did cut away from him solving the
Oh,
Rubik's cube in the water without any clear solution, like
my word.
any signal that he had passed, that he had failed. So there were whispers, is Cosmo okay? Is Cosmo okay? Wow, he's been holding his breath for a long time. Yeah, yeah, an interesting choice.
Yeah, yeah.
Of activity for him to do. Um, I, I definitely wouldn't call it the highlight of the game, but it was definitely a notable moment for sure.
So speaking of highlights of the game, um, you mentioned that none of your family is Stanford educated, and none of you got in, which means obviously yes, from an academic standpoint, Stanford is a very good school. But however, when it comes to the gridiron, they've been lacking a little bit in recent years, and we saw that once again last night as BYU just took it to the tree to the Cardinal, 27-3 final score. It looked like Stanford was going to get shut out for the most of the game. Ended up getting a field goal there toward the end. But since you mentioned it, what were some of the highlights from that experience at LaVell Edwards Stadium last night?
One, I mean, I just it is so nice to have football back, and
Amen, amen, brother.
it's been several years since I have had the pleasure of attending a BYU football game in person. I think I haven't been since I was a student, maybe. And the energy in the stadium is actually electric. And I know that people say that all the time. They're like, "Oh, it's so different going in person than watching it on TV." But I really truly felt that. We were positioned at a spot in the stadium where we were pretty high up in the bleachers, so we got to see the
Mm,
entirety of the stadium. And seeing just like the tens of thousands of just ardent BYU fans, like singing all the songs and doing all the chants and knowing all the words to and actions to everything was really fun for me to step into again after a really long time. I know that that's a highlight that's outside of what was happening on the gridiron itself.
right.
I mean, if we're talking about the game, I feel really good about BYU's defense. Like they just
Oof, wow.
like I mean that shutout for those three straight quarters. Anytime our defense was on the field, I was feeling good.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. It's an awesome way to feel as a fan of any football team when you have a good defense, because I feel like that's a little more rare than having a strong offense and a weak defense, right? Um, so yeah, just kind of watching them just like kind of do whatever they want to Stanford and getting them, three and out after three and out. I saw that punter multiple times. So yeah, yeah, for me that was the highlight. Just like a dominant defensive performance from BYU.
Yeah, so those both things that you mentioned, both like the crowd and kind of the atmosphere, and then the defense are things that I was going to touch on too. So we'll go with the defense first because I tweeted out last night that this is like the first time in a while. I mean, you can include last year as well, but like that BYU has had an actual pass rush, which like is something that I was not used to having watched BYU for almost 10 years before that, before Jay Hill got here, who's the defense coordinator right now. Over the last two seasons now. And he's just like kind of like you mentioned, like he's just transformed it to the point where like you feel confident in the BYU defense. So many tackles for loss. Like you got guys like Isaiah Glasker and Jack Kelly just like getting in there, getting sacks. And that got a bit of attention when I tweeted that out last night. So I guess people agree with me that, it's kind of a weird place to be, that BYU has this pass rush after so many years of like rushing 3 basically consistently and just like doing the bare minimum on that end of the game. But I'm glad you mentioned the crowd too, because you were part of history last night. I don't know the official number, but it was the highest attended BYU game since 2007.
Whoa.
So 64,000 plus, I think it was like somewhere in that range, which is massive. And also interesting because as we kind of look at some other scores from around college football in the state, Utah State was down in College Station, which you also have some connections to with your brother, having attended A&M. And as I read the recap for that game, the number 100,000 in attendance was in there. And I was just like, it stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, wow, 100,000 people just attended this football game against Utah State. And it seems to be like across the country, numbers are up with college football attendance, which is really interesting to see. And so, yeah, just like the sheer numbers that you see when you go out to these games, I feel like there's no way you can tell on the TV broadcast how massive it is until you actually go in there and you're like, wow, this is actually 60,000 people.
Absolutely, you're totally hitting the nail on the head. It is something that when you're there, you can see it and you can feel it, and it just doesn't translate to the TV. I mean, even bouncing over to the NFL for just a second, like
Yeah.
the 49ers Seahawks game, right? And like a big thing for the Seahawks is the 12th man, and it gets so loud in that stadium that the opposing team can't hear, right? And like that idea that the fans in attendance can have a tangible impact on the game um is it's just really interesting, and something that I feel like I haven't given enough credit to, like in just kind of the makeup of the sport. I mean, there were a couple of instances at the BYU game where I think that they had like 2 delay of games back to back, or like a delay of game and a false start. um there was a forced safety, which for me was, we were on that end of the field, so watching that safety happen was like a really big highlight of the game, and it felt like the audience, the attendees were actually having an impact on how Stanford was playing and how the defense was playing, and that's just so much fun, go to football games, people, go.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think, yeah, you definitely saw it last night. There were a couple times in the last couple seasons as BYU's made the Big 12 move, where I think teams have come into LaVell Edwards and been a little surprised by just how loud that crowd is. I think, if I remember right, it was either the Arizona or Arizona State game last year, where there were like a couple of false starts in a row, where the offense just like couldn't hear what the play call was and like couldn't hear what was going on because they were in that south end zone where the rock student section is, and it was just like, it was deafening. They couldn't hear what was going on. So that's good to hear that was still going. Like I mentioned, the final score of the BYU game was 27-3. Utah played Cal Poly up at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Also, I imagine probably similar attendance. They've got a similar capacity somewhere in that 60,000, high 50s, low 60,000 range. They beat Cal Poly 63-9, which an interesting thing. So Utah jumped from just receiving votes. I think they were like 27th total if you want to go into rankings 2 weeks ago in the AP poll, moved to 25th last week after beating UCLA. And then after beating Cal Poly, an FCS team, they move up 5 spots to number 20, which the math isn't quite mathing there for me, but I'm sure it has to do with teams like some teams lost in that range, I'm sure, in that 20-25 range. So they just kind of happened to be like undefeated 2-0 at the right point, and got that bit of a bump. I believe BYU is still like 26 or 27. So in those first few receiving votes in the AP poll. But man, like so far, the way things are shaping up, that BYU Utah matchup in, I believe it's week 7 of the season, it's going to be super interesting. And if I remember right, it's going to be at LaVell Edwards Stadium. So like what we're talking about right now with like the crowd and the numbers and like the impact they can have, like that's going to play a role in the Holy War just here in a couple weeks too.
Yeah, man. Well, and it's funny, so I'm looking at BYU's schedule right now, and it it goes in subsequent weeks. It goes Utah at BYU, and then BYU at currently 14th ranked Iowa State, and then BYU at currently 21st ranked Texas Tech.
Wow.
Like that's a 3 week gauntlet, man.
Yeah.
like like let us check in on our Cougars after that, because I don't know. I don't know my confidence about about those 3 games in a row. I can't see us going 3-0 there. And I'm a BYU fan. So
Yeah, so we'll definitely have you back on around that time, if for no other reason than to get an update on your thoughts on the BYU quarterback Bear Bachmeier. So he's 2-0 so far, first true freshman to ever start a season for BYU. Hasn't really been tested, I think. Obviously, you can say. What did you think of Bear Bachmeier? Seeing him live in person last night in Provo.
okay, well, so I know that you already kind of know the answer to this, because I was live texting during the BYU football game. I my As I'd said at the top of this, like, kind of my big takeaway from watching this game in person was I was really impressed with BYU's defensive performance. Um, Another way that you could word that is that I wasn't wildly impressed with BYU's offensive performance, especially with Bear. I mean, I have to give him a little bit of credit, given that, that he did what he needed to do. He played, he managed the game, and BYU came out with the W. But I'm trying to think of a better way to say this, but so as I had mentioned, we were seated in the bleachers pretty high up, and so I had a really good view of like the big screen, like of the jumbotron or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
and just the the facial expressions and the presence of Bear, and watching him in the pocket, and watching uh, him handle pockets collapsing around him. He doesn't have that quarterback confidence that I, as a fan, would really like to see leading in decision making for my team. I think the exact phrase that I had used in my text message was, uh, "Bear is not him." And I
Ooh,
want,
okay.
and hold on. I do want to adjust. I do want to adjust this a little bit. I will say, I don't think that Bear is him, ellipses, yet. Right.
Ooh,
He's a
okay.
freshman. He's 2 games into his college career. He has a very long road ahead of him as a college level quarterback. Right. And my hope is that as he advances along that journey, that he finds his stride and he finds some confidence. Um, and I think that that's something that can come with reps. I also think that it's something that sometimes just doesn't come at all. And I'll be interested to see um, it's kind of how his journey plays out. I A word of advice, even just after watching BYU's dominant victory over Stanford, a word of advice to my fellow BYU fans out there: I would table all of these hopes and aspirations for the playoff appearance this year.
Ooh,
Let's shelve it. Let's allocate those hopes, those desires, and that energy into something. Maybe we can allocate it to the Utah Mammoth or something.
great
But
segue
it's
there, Nate. Well
Yeah,
done.
yeah, it is. It is. I'm advising that it is energy poorly spent this year. Um, I have a dear friend who has a young daughter whose favorite television show currently is the show Little Bear. It's a
Never heard of it.
cartoon. It's a cartoon. I think it's based in Canada. Um, anyway, when I think of Bear Bachmeier at present, I think of Little Bear. Okay,
Okay.
and I imagine that in the show, Little Bear does grow up to be a big bear at some
Mm,
point. But he looks like a little kid out there with his teammates. And yeah, so that's my soapbox on Bear Bachmeier. He's not him yet, little Bear Bachmeier. But I'm hopeful that he develops and will be a good, maybe even great quarterback for BYU here next season and the season following.
Yeah, I mean that's precisely the reason that I'd love to have you on again when we get to that point in like the like you were mentioning that gauntlet, because I think Big 12 play like it's just going to be a huge test for him. How doing it against an FCS or what league is Stanford even in? Are they technically in the ACC?
Yeah, dude, they're in the AC, they're in the which is the Atlantic Coast Conference,
Yeah,
right? The ACC.
yeah,
What
tough luck.
this is broken.
Yeah,
This,
yeah.
that's a different podcast, but the whole way we have this thing structured is broken. That Stanford's in the ACC. Um,
Yeah, so
yes,
doing it, and I mean, obviously, a bottom of the ladder ACC team. It's still different doing it against, like you mentioned, these ranked teams, which we have three of in the Big 12: Texas Tech, Utah, Iowa State, right? And those are coming up sooner rather than later. And those aren't even like, and there's even the ones that aren't ranked are tough. Like I think there's even three other teams that are receiving votes in the AP poll in the Big 12. It's not easy to go anywhere in the Big 12 and win a game. You talk about going to, I'm trying to think of some of the road Big 12 games that we have. I'm assuming BYU is going to go to Kansas at some point. They're going to go to Oklahoma to play Oklahoma State, right? Because I was able to go to the Oklahoma State game last year in Provo, and they barely pulled that one off with this great team at home with Jake Retzloff and all that. So going to these away stadiums in Big 12 country is a whole nother beast. And like you mentioned, like the confidence body language factor, getting to get into a little bit of Bill Simmons body language doctor territory there with trying to read the aura of a player, right? We talk a lot about aura these days. And is Bear Bachmeier an auraless player right now?
it's okay. And actually, thank you so much for bringing this up. So one, just to say it. I think that if weeks from now, the same Bear Bachmeier that played last night is going to be playing against these ranked teams, like they're going to eat him for lunch. Like
Yeah.
they are. Which I hate to say, but you're totally right. Like it's this vibes thing, it's this aura thing. It's this confidence thing. And my question for you is, does that translate to the screen? Like I don't know if you're watching this game remotely or not,
Yeah.
but is what I'm describing like am I crazy? Did you feel a little bit of this at all, or
Yeah, so full disclosure, I was second screening the game a little bit because there was a Utah Royals soccer game last night. That they ended up tying late 1-1. So shout out to the Royals there. Another great goal from Paige Monahan if you want to go check it out. But I was writing up that story and kind of doing like Zoom calls and different stuff for that game while watching the first half of the BYU game. And then it kind of got like I never was really fully invested in it because then it got to the point where it was like, 27-0 or whatever in the second half. And I was like, well, this one's in the bag already. So I don't think I'm fully qualified to like make like qualify whether or not he had the aura through the screen. But I mean, you look at the stats, right? Like I think everything is just like okay. Like I think he was like 17 for 27, which is like fine, not bad, not great. It looked like the run game was stronger than the passing game, which is, if you have a good running game, that's great too. Um, but yeah, I would say like the vibe I'm getting is like not terrible, not great. Like it's been like good enough is kind of what I would say so far.
I think good enough is really well said. It's just like it's clearing, it's getting the
Yeah,
job done.
yeah.
It's
Which
that
which
game.
which and I think to be fair, like in the position that BYU was put in over the summer with their starting quarterback transferring, like to being good enough with an 18-year-old is like, probably about as good as you can hope for.
I think that context is really important. And I know that I'm like kind of being hard on Bear here, because you're right. Like he's kind of been put in a tough spot, and as far as what we like, as far as our sample size goes, like he's delivered.
Yeah.
It's just, I every sports fan wants to have a really good quarterback to root for, you know. And I think BYU specifically, like us, like we're really susceptible to that mentality. It's like we really, really, really want to have this cool, awesome, great, talented quarterback, right? We really want to have our Taysom Hills. Um, and yeah, and Bear, he's a different person in a different situation, and it's not an easy situation. So it'll be interesting. The one last kind of note that I have on the Bear Bachmeier experience from Stanford is just I, I wasn't aware that his number was 47.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I before I like throw a ton of judgment at how weird it is that a quarterback is playing with the number 47, because maybe there is like some cool familial reason why he's doing it, but even just watching that, like watching the number 47 lineup behind the center was so disorienting for me. So anyway, if anyone out there has any clarifying information on why that is the way it is, if it is, the word that you had used earlier was like aura, and I feel
Yeah.
like 47 for a quarterback is kind of like
Mm,
an aura-less number.
right.
um but I don't want to like, just pile on that if it's like, oh, his grandfather was 47 at BYU or something like that, anyway,
Yeah.
just I
So
wanted.
just doing a quick Google search here, just under. So I did Bear Bachmeier 47 under. People also ask, why does Bear Bachmeier wear 47? Bear told reporters in July that his number choice has to do with his early beginnings as a running back during his youth. I used to play running back when I was younger. When I started playing football, when I made the transition to quarterback, I just kept the number.
Nope, change it. Sorry, Bear. Bad reason.
Well, yeah, I agree. It is a little weird. And I think I actually saw a tweet tonight that was like, we should bring back like the position based number system where it's like you have to be within this range if you play that position. Um, which I mean, it would make life a little easier, I think, for
Yep.
everybody.
D- Call me old. I like order. I like
Yeah,
organization. I like
yeah.
my
Get up.
quarterbacks single digits or in the teens.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all very good information. Obviously, a lot yet to be seen. Like we're only 2 games in, right? BYU actually has a bye week next week, so they'll have a week off to kind of look at how things have gone. You might say like maybe it's a little too early in the season for a bye week because they haven't really been able to see much from the team against these two opponents. But after that, they've got like a pretty decent. They're kind of like leveling up the tests, I would say. So like Stanford was a level up from the FCS team, and then the week after the bye week on September 20th, they'll go on the road to East Carolina. So like not necessarily a Big 12 like insane road game, but decent enough. And then the week after that, they go to Colorado. So like you're kind of like incrementally going up the ladder here a little bit to kind of, which I think is best case scenario for a freshman quarterback, easing him into it little by little. You get your first road game, and it's non-conference, so it's not as high pressure, but it's still an opponent where you can maybe learn a little more than you can against like a lower level Stanford. So
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. That the schedule is kind of working in Bears' favor a little
yeah,
bit
yeah.
that way. Just slowly ratcheting it up until you hit that, those three ranked teams back to back to back.
Which is like there's no way around it. Like that's going to be insane. So that is where the season is made or broken for BYU. So that'll be an exciting time. And going to their opponent during that time, Utah, they've got a road trip next week. So no bye week for them. They'll go to Laramie, Wyoming, taking on the Cowboys next week before they begin Big 12 play against Texas Tech on September 20th at home at the Bicycle Stadium. So some exciting things coming up there for those teams. We've talked a little bit NFL. Your Niners got the job done. You mentioned everybody wants a good quarterback. You've got Brock Purdy. What else could you possibly want, right? I mean, you got number one aura right there.
I don't know uh if you're being sarcastic or not right now.
I
I
don't
don't know if you're
know. What?
I don't know if you're making fun of me.
Wait,
I
they
I'm
scored 17 points? What?
I am totally bought in on the Brock Purdy experience. He made a couple poor decisions today, but actually not too dissimilar from Bear. Maybe I should give Bear a little more a little more credit.
Bear
Brock
Purdy.
Brock he's in a tough spot right now, and he got the job done. So yeah, They can't all be Dak Prescott's, but I'm very happy with the quarterback that is commanding my team right now.
Yeah, I knew you were going to bring that up, and I don't know if I've said it on this podcast officially, but I have renounced the Cowboys. I'm not a Dallas Cowboys fan anymore. So you can't hurt me with those Dak Prescott jokes. But yeah, Bear Bachmeier, Brock Purdy Meyer. There might be something there.
There's something there. We'll workshop it for sure.
Yeah. But congratulations to them nonetheless. It was a fun opening weekend. Capped off, like I mentioned, by that electric Bills-Ravens game, 41-40. Field goal there in the last seconds for the Bills to win that game. Couple little kind of local ties in that game that were a little fun. On the Bills side for the winning team, Dalton Kincaid, former Utah tight end, got the opening touchdown for the Bills. And then the Bills have a cornerback, Cole Bishop, that also played at Utah. He got destroyed by Derrick Henry early on in the game, which was not a great look. It was on the opening touchdown by Derrick Henry. He just got shoved at the ground. So a tough look there for Cole Bishop, but he rebounded and his team won the game. And then on the Ravens side, you got Kyle Van Noy, linebacker, coming in and doing a little bit of damage against Josh Allen there in the first half. So shout out to the immortal Kyle Van Noy. He's been playing for a while now. He switched up his intro today. Usually he just says Brigham when they do the player intros. Today he said Unk University. Which I got a kick out of, but might need a little more context for people that don't know what's going on there. But I think it's reference to he's getting a little older. He's entering his unk phase. He's the uncle,
and he's aging gracefully.
Exactly.
Even though his team took the L today. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I hate putting you on the spot because
Please do.
And there is a legitimate chance that I just totally misheard. But as they were doing, the naming of the universities, the players, like you're just saying, Kyle Van Noy did I thought that I heard a cornerback from the Bills say that he went to Weber State. And
Man,
I want
you might be right.
And I want to verify that, right? Well, it's just like it's interesting, right? It's like, whoa, Weber State, like our Weber State.
So there were a couple other. If you want to maybe Google it real quick, I can add a couple more local ties. Well, not exactly local, but Khalil Shakir on the Bills. He went to Boise State, and I believe a guy. It might have even been that tight end, the third string tight end for the Bills that caught a pass there near the end zone late in the game. I think I saw somebody say that he went to high school in Utah or something along those lines. But it wouldn't surprise me. I think Weber State, they put out who's the Saints wide receiver? Rashid Shaheed. He was a Weber State guy. So it's not unheard of.
And my ears do not need to be checked. I heard right. Taron Johnson, number 7, cornerback for the Bills, had 2 solo tackles today. A Wildcat, a Weber State Wildcat. So there you go.
Let's go. We probably need to shout them out more often. On this podcast and stuff and of things of the like, I usually stick to the FBS teams. But Weber State putting out products, putting out NBA players, putting out NFL players. So shout out to the Wildcats up there in Ogden.
Go Cats.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we will bring this to an end. We'll let Nate go and let him prepare for his trip that he has coming up tomorrow. So we will certainly have you on later in the season, but appreciate you coming on, Nate. Any final thoughts on your experience at LaVell Edwards last night?
Had a cougar tail as advertised. Yeah. So there's my little plug there.
First time?
Yeah. First time.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm a real BYU Cougar now.
That's crazy.
It was so good. I didn't eat the whole thing by myself. I had help. But yeah, no, I will keep you posted on my bear watch throughout this season. All right.
Please do. All righty, sir. We will catch you guys on the flip side.
All right. Later. Have a good one, everyone.